All right. Welcome back to another episode of SaaS Buyers Club. I'm your host, Omid, and this week I am interviewing Nathan Hirsch. Nathan is a serial entrepreneur. He's got 3 companies. He's got 1 exit under his belt. And we're going to start the conversation today by talking about his exit with his company. That was a marketplace, right? It was a marketplace. Tell us a little bit about the company. Let's start there.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I became an entrepreneur when I was 20 in college. I started buying and selling textbooks that led me to Amazon, and I found myself dropshipping products on Amazon. This was 2008, 2009, before people even knew what being an Amazon seller was, the real early days. And had a lot of success, mostly just timing because no one else was doing it, but always struggled to hire. College kids, super unreliable, and eventually got to virtual assistants. And that was the solution to all my problems. I could hire really good VAs, really good freelancers, built out this really good hiring process to hire A players. And as Amazon got harder, we started networking with other people in the e-commerce space. They had the same hiring issues that we had. So we said, hey, let's build a business around this. And we launched like we do most of our companies with minimum viable product. We had these great VAs and freelancers. We started offering them to other clients. They really liked that. All the billing was through us. And we said, okay, we need to build the software to hold it all together. Just like if you would go to Airbnb and rent something, you got to log in, you got to create an account, you got to add a payment method. There's an affiliate program. You get matched up with houses, in our cases, freelancers and virtual assistants. And that became FreeUp. And again, timing was part of it. The whole VA freelancer space was blowing up. And we grew this business from $1 million to $5 million to $9 million by year 12 before being approached by two of our clients actually saying, hey, we love the VA freelancer space. We love FreeUp. We don't start businesses. We buy businesses. And would you guys be interested in being acquired? And we can kind of dig more into it. But then it was the most stressful 6 months of my life going through this due diligence process, selling my baby and everything that kind of goes along with that. But it was quite a journey, really, just for 4 years, going 24/7 into this one venture and having it actually pay off in the end.
Awesome. So FreeUp is the name of the company, and it was a VA marketplace. Is that right?
Yeah. Our whole business motto was we would get thousands of applicants every week. We would vet them. The best of the best would get on the platform. Only 1% would be able to actually create a profile on our platform. And then from the client side, they could create an account for free, put in a request. Clients like it because they don't have to interview 100 people. They just get 1 or 2 and they know we've already vetted them. And we have great customer service to back it up if anything goes wrong. And the freelancers like it because they don't have to go to Upwork and apply to 100 different places. They know if we match them up with the client knows they're vetted and they could just start same day. So it was kind of a win-win, and the software built it all, held it all together. And throughout the years, we just added more and more. Like at the beginning, we had the MVP that did very little. Clients could create an account. Freelancers had an account. We could match them. We call it time clock. Billing was through that, or tracking time was through that. Billing wasn't even through that. And eventually, we added for clients to add payment and the full sign-up process and a job board and an affiliate program and all the stuff that really became the software that was a big part of making us being able to be
cool.
Acquired.
And so there was this marketplace. You said that you built some SaaS around it. Is that the time clock, or what aspect of it was SaaS?
Yeah, the whole portal. So if you were a client, you'd create an account, you'd put in your business information, you'd put in what we call a freelancer request, and you'd say, hey, I need a graphic designer for 5 hours a week, whatever it is. It asks questions. It would go to the job board. The freelancer on their side, they could apply. Our admin part of the portal would decide who would take what job. And then the freelancer would set their own rate. The client would see the rate on their end, freelancer on their end, our fees in the middle that neither of them see. And then the client could accept or reject with feedback and get more options. And if they accept, their payment method would already have to be added, or they'd have to add one. And then all the billing every single week would be through the platform, whether it was fixed prices or hourly. And we had weekly billing where we charge the client every Thursday. There'd be a week delay to allow for any disputes, and then the freelancer would get automatically paid the following Thursday. So all of that was built out in our software, not to mention other stuff like our affiliate program. If you referred Bob, you would get 50 cents for every hour that Bob build forever. So you'd be able to track that on your side, the client on their side. We had a freelancer affiliate program too. So all of that was the software that held the company
Very
together.
cool. And how long did you work on the business before you were acquired?
4 years. We started it at the end of 2015 and we sold it at the end of 2019.
Okay, cool. Let's dig a little into the acquisition. Is that cool with you? Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. So 4 years, you built the business, you grew exponentially every year. It sounds like 2 clients approached you to buy the business. Were you thinking about buying the business or about selling the business when the clients approached you? What did that process look like when they approached you?
So we didn't go into 2019 saying, hey, we want to sell this thing by the end of the year. At the same time, we knew that this business was sellable. It was super profitable, very lean. We had no office. We had no U.S. employees. The entire business was run by 30 VAs in the Philippines. My internal team, we had thousands of VAs on the platform, but my internal team was 30 people. And it was super profitable. We were making 100,000 plus a month profit. We had again, no expenses, cash flow positive. We got paid by the client well before we paid the freelancers. So we always had cash on hand. So we knew it would attract some buyers. And when they made the offer, it was a tough decision. We didn't have to sell the company. The company was growing. But at the same time, this was pre-COVID. The economy was at an all-time high. We didn't know if that would continue. We had gotten this business to 12 million. To get it to 25, maybe we would have had to hire U.S. people or increase expenses. And we didn't want to end up in a situation where we're sure we increased the revenue, but we weren't making as much money or we lost the flexibility that we had. Other factors, our Amazon business, even though we made a good amount of money and it was a fun first adventure, we had a sour taste in our mouth because Amazon became harder. They changed the rules. We ended up laying a lot of people off. So in our mind, this was kind of our chance for redemption. Obviously, it was life-changing money, money that would make it so we didn't really have to work and we could just work on things that we were passionate about. So all of those things are going into play, and we love our team. We didn't want a situation where we were going to hurt our team in any way. We wanted to sell it to really good people, and part of the deal was we took $500,000 from a sale and gave it to our team in the Philippines to make sure they were taken care of, along with making sure their jobs were secure. So they were doing due diligence on us. We were doing due diligence on them. That was some of the best advice we ever got. We wanted to make sure that we were going to sell it to good people that would treat our team well, our clients well, pay us every penny. We didn't want to spend years afterwards arguing or ending up in court or whatever it was. So all of that was going through, and we had decided to make the move without, we kind of the mentality, hey, there's no going back. If we're going to accept this LOI, we're making the best decision possible with the information we have. And we have to act like this deal's going to fall through. We have to keep running the business because it could fall through at any time. And we don't want to go back to a business that we've just been neglecting for months. So definitely the most stressful 6 months of my life.
But I'm sure not the last time that it will be like that. Hopefully less stressful the next time you go through acquisitions. But what I hear is you weren't expecting the LOI, but where, the economic conditions was, the economy was performing, at its height. The business, was growing. So it was, in what we call the exit sweet spot, which it's like, you want to sell when the business is up. You don't want to sell when the business is down. You want to sell when the business... and when you also don't have to. So you're kind of taking all of those kind of right steps, which is really interesting because the majority of business owners don't do those things. The majority of business owners wait until they're being crushed by their business. And then they're like, I have to get out of this thing. And usually at that point, the business is also on a downturn. It's not growing the way that it needed to, or it's not profitable. And so they're actually selling the business at a disadvantage. What did the conversation when you guys, I heard a little bit, and I hear the factors that were, taken into account. So you got the initial offer, from the 2 clients. You had this business partner. What did that conversation with your business partner sound like in terms of, hey, should we do this? Like, what was your initial reaction to the initial offer? What did the conversations with your business partner sound like? And how long did it take you guys to decide to move forward in selling the business? Just curious.
Yeah. So we got the LOI and we talked about it for a few weeks back and forth, the pros and cons, really going through that list that I talked about and what would happen if we didn't sell the company? What would our plan be for the next few years? And then what would happen if we did sell the company? What would that allow us to do? What do we want to do next? Do we even want to do something next? I mean, the original plan was for us each to take a year off. I didn't think I'd see my business partner for a year. We sold it in November 2019. So COVID hit like 3 months later, which was kind of crazy. And then we were in a weird spot where we were stuck at home. All our vacation plans were canceled and we had no business to run and no business ideas because all we had done for 4 years was focus on FreeUp. But yeah, we went through, we talked about it logically, and luckily we both agreed. I don't know what we would have done if each of us thought something different, but we said, hey, this is an opportunity for us to make a name for ourselves, get our first exit under our belt, put a lot of money in our bank account, take the chips off the table, sell it to really good people that we could, that would treat our team well and allow us to kind of play with house money going forward. Like I own these different companies now, a bookkeeping business, Accounts Balance, True SEO, Outsource School. I hope none of the businesses fail, but if they do, I'm not going to go homeless. It's not the end of the world, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of how we were able to kind of approach it. And so we talked about it for a few weeks. We ended up accepting that, negotiating a little bit, and then the due diligence started. And that took another few months of going back and forth. It felt like every day we were just getting questions from them and firing questions back. We wanted to know everything about them, from with their net worth to how other companies they acquired and references, their plans for FreeUp, their plans for the team, all of that stuff. And luckily on our end, we were super organized. I mean, one of the reasons that we own like Outsource School and Accounts Balance is our bookkeeping is clean. We had 4 years of immaculate books. We had reports for everything. We knew our numbers. We had SOPs, which we preach in Outsource School, for every part of the business that they could ask for. So they even told us that we were the fastest to respond out of any company they acquired because we just had everything ready to go. We built the business to be sellable, even though we didn't plan on selling it. And then once both sides are like, okay, we feel comfortable with each other, then the lawyers got involved. And this wasn't anyone's fault. Their lawyers are trying to protect them. Our lawyers are trying to protect us, but we're going back and forth, redlining agreements. For us, it's the biggest day of our life. For the lawyers, it's another Tuesday. They go on vacation. They have other clients. So that is a slow process of going back and forth. And every round of revisions that you're sending back and forth, you're thinking, okay, are they not going to agree to this? Do we have to? Are we going to lose the deal? And finally, it came down to we had like 3 points that we just weren't agreeing on. And I emailed the buyers. I said, hey, can we just hop on the phone and go get away from the lawyers, talk this out, see if we can get just a compromise on these 3 things? And luckily we did. And from there, we flew out to Tampa. I was in Orlando, my business partner in Denver. So he flew to me and we drove down to their headquarters in Tampa and met their team, signed the documents. They wired us the money. And that was really our experience.
Okay. Very cool. Love it. Love it. Yeah. I mean, pretty much you did all of the things that you should be doing that a lot of people don't think of, during an acquisition or yeah, I mean, just in general. Like I've two primary, like huge kind of hot tips: sell when the business is hot. And, I'm a lawyer. I'm specifically an M&A and corporate lawyer. And I even say to clients, like, don't lose that relationship to the buyer, and buyer, don't lose that relationship to the seller. Like, make sure that line of communication always stays open, because yeah, sometimes, one lawyer on one side might be more of a stickler or whatever. And so, it's a great opportunity, to make sure that the deal can still go through by, that independent relationship between the buyer and seller, like you did, picking up the phone and being like, hey, these lawyers, like, can we work through this issue? Can you tell your lawyers to back off? Because oftentimes people don't even actually know the positions that their lawyers are necessarily taking in a deal. And so keeping the lawyer on a leash and, pulling on the reins of the lawyer is really important. So those are kind of like the 2 primary tips that are really important that I often give to clients. And so I don't know where you learned it, but good work, man. Go ahead.
You made some great points. I mean, we've kept that relationship strong. We consider them mentors. Like, we just chatted with them a few weeks ago. They've helped us promote Outsource School and Accounts Balance. Who knows? We might do business with them in the future. And they're all about relationships, and that's extremely important. And you're right about the lawyer talk. Like, one of the points that we were going back and forth about, I feel like neither of us, like, really, at least our side, we didn't really understand what the lawyers were talking about. And it turns out they just wanted to make sure that our software, our IP, that we actually created it, that we weren't copying other people's stuff. And if it was found out later that we were copying it, then we were liable for it. But we were happy to sign it because we knew that we didn't copy anything, that it was our IP. No one else had this software. And we just didn't understand the legal jargon that the lawyer was trying to do. So the points you made were spot on.
Yeah. So the buyers were your clients, and they shot you an LOI. Did they tell you that they were going to give you the LOI before they gave it to you, or did they just shoot the LOI over and you guys kind of received this offer and were like, whoa, someone wants to buy our company? What did that look? Okay,
no, we talked to them.
Okay.
We hopped on a call with them where they were just like, hey, we're interested in buying it. I mean, they own a company called The Hoth. That's what most people know them for. Mark Hargrove, David Martin. But they own a conglomerate of businesses. They acquire businesses all the time. And they were just asking us questions about the business model, the numbers. We knew the numbers really well. And then they asked us what we wanted. We told them. They came back with a counter, which ended up being the LOI. So we had some initial conversations.
Got it. Before. And so, you got the LOI, you walked through this kind of logical pro and con process, with your co-founder, with your business partner, and you guys decided to take the offer, like, let's do it, and then the due diligence process started. So, or it sounds like there at least was one counter on the LOI. Is that a correct understanding, that you got the LOI and then, you maybe adjusted or shifted some terms in the LOI? Is that right?
I believe that when we got the LOI, we knew the amount for it. So we had told them what we wanted. They negotiated a phone call. We agreed on a number. And then they said, okay, now that we're in agreement, then they said,
and then you guys just signed that LOI. Got it.
Correct.
You had a lawyer, obviously. Did you have a lawyer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just making sure.
Yeah.
And then
and an accountant.
Yes, very important. And when did you engage your lawyer in the process?
From the beginning. So my lawyer, who's actually a good friend of mine, works for a bigger firm. He does contract law. So he did like the terms of use for FreeUp. He's done the terms of use on our different companies, contractor agreement, operating agreements, all that stuff. But he recommended us to someone on his firm that does M&A. So that person looked at the LOI, approved that, and then they were instrumental in actually drafting the legal agreement. Now, the other advice we got, which we did, is have your lawyer write the initial draft of the agreement for it. So we were able to do that and then made tweaks off of that. But I don't know if it really gave us an advantage because it all worked out and everyone kind of did what they said anyway. But that was kind of advice that we got along the way, is like, have your lawyer take the lead, even though you're probably going to pay a little bit more to write that initial agreement. It's worth it for you to be in the driver's seat of writing that initial.
That's right. Yeah. Typically, though, the standard practice is that buyer drafts the agreements, but it can be either party. But yeah, market standard is buyer drafts the agreements, and the whole idea is, we'll draft, middle of the road agreements, but also, because we're drafting agreements, we kind of get the leg up because it's written from our perspective. So that definitely is
right. And stuff gets redlined anyway, and all that.
Yeah. So okay. So talk to me about the due diligence process. What are that? So they did due diligence on you. You did due diligence on them. What did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, from a numbers side, they obviously wanted access to our books and wanted to make sure that we were actually withdrawing all the money that the company was making and wanted record of that. They wanted client-specific reports, for example, like the diversification of the clients, to make sure that like one client wasn't 50% of our revenue, stuff like that. And I think our biggest client was like 4 or 5%, something like that. They wanted like turnover rate, churn rate, how long clients stay, the record of like billing month after month, amount of freelancers on the platform, and then payouts there. And then they wanted our SOPs. They wanted to know customer service SOPs, sales calls SOPs, fulfillment SOPs, how things are handled if there's a freelancer issue, all that kind of stuff. So it was, and then, I mean, they did due diligence on us in terms of like our Amazon business before, how we treat people, how we run meetings, stuff like that. Questions like, what are we going to do after when we leave FreeUp, stuff like that. So most of it was on the actual business, the processes, the financials of the business, whereas our questions to them were more about them personally and like, who are we getting into bed with? So
right. And did you say the purchase price?
I didn't. I signed a non-disclosure about it. I'll probably never disclose it, but
okay,
it's a good amount of money.
Just had to ask, totally get it. Yeah. And moving on. So, okay. And in terms of the due diligence process, what were like some of your key takeaways or like your learnings? Oh, I remember the question now. Okay. You say that from the very beginning, you built your business to be sellable. Talk to me about that. What is that? What do people need to know about building their business to make it sellable right from the beginning? What does it look like?
Yeah, and we do the same thing now with our different companies, Outsource School, Accounts Balance, Trio SEO, even though like now we probably won't sell these businesses unless we get some kind of crazy offer because we don't have to and we kind of like having a portfolio and they all go together. But it starts with a strong team. Like we're looking for lifers when we hire. Like we always joke that people are signing a lifetime contract with us. They're not actually, but we want people who are like really passionate about it. They want to be here. They have the entrepreneurship spirit. They like the culture. They like building. And it starts with that team. Turnover crushes small businesses, especially with those initial hires. You want those initial hires you make to be people that become veterans in the business, that grow with the business, that set the tone for everyone else you hire. So our team was amazing with FreeUp. Definitely the hardest part about selling FreeUp was not being able to work with our core four, we called it, and really the entire internal team. But it starts with that. Then it comes down to SOPs. Everything's documented. One of the reasons we started Outsource School is we give people all of our SOPs and all of our SOP templates. And in all of our businesses, everything's documented. Nothing's in our head. We put the people in charge of owning the SOPs and building the SOPs. So if someone's on sales calls, their job every quarter is to update the sales calls SOPs. So when we went to sell, we weren't scrambling to update all these SOPs. They had been updating every quarter for the past 4 years. So that's a big part of it. And then clean books. With our Amazon business, it was a disaster. We had no idea what we were doing. We were 20 years old. We didn't know you have to hire a bookkeeper or accountants or anything like that. And we were always just playing catch up. From day one of FreeUp, one of the best business decisions we ever made was we said, we're going to hire a bookkeeper from day one. And when we went to sell it, we had 4 years of immaculate books going back to the first day. And that's what we do with all our companies now. It's a business expense. It's just like you would hire a lawyer or an accountant. If we're starting a business, we have a bookkeeper from day one, and the books are always clean and on time every single month. So those are kind of the three ways. The fourth way I'll add, and it kind of goes with all the companies we create now, is just the diversification of marketing. You don't want one avenue that you get all your clients. You don't want it all dependent on Facebook ads. We had strong SEO. The Hoft is an SEO company, so they really like that. But we also did different podcasts. We sponsored different events. We did a lot with affiliates and partnerships and all these different things that are in our organic marketing blueprint. If anyone wants to check it out, go to outsourceschool.com/organic marketing. But really like this 5-point approach to marketing, where if one stops working or things fall off, you're getting clients in lots of different ways. And people are always scared to like run a company where you're the face. I would argue that like you're replaceable as the face of marketing. Someone else can come in with a better marketing team, better marketing strategy, but you still have to be able to get clients in different ways and have the foundation of different ways. You don't want that next person taking over to have to start from scratch on SEO because you've been neglecting that for the past 4 years.
That was awesome. Okay, cool. Yeah, so that Nathan's 4-point plan to making your business sellable from day one. There it is. Talk to me about, I think the team piece is really interesting. People sign lifetime contracts with you. What is that about? What is your key to success? Because team, like acqui-hires are a thing. The buyer wants to know that, the people that made the business incredibly successful. We always talk about how employees are the true value of the business. If you buy a business and the next day all of the employees leave, what have you purchased? You have not, the entire value of the business has left. So what is the key to success with being able to build a very strong team that makes a sellable business?
So I always start with the question, how do I become this person's favorite client or favorite boss, the best boss they've ever had? And it's not money. You can't compete with other companies on money. Obviously, you want to pay people well. You want to pay people the market standard. You don't want people to feel underpaid. But there's always going to be someone out there that can pay your team more than you can pay them. So you can't just compete on money. It really comes down to finding the right culture fit. Connor and I have a very unique way that we work. We like building, we move quickly, we treat people well. We're always researching and exploring new ideas and trying new things. We're okay with failure. We're okay with taking risks. And we want someone with that same mindset. Someone who, when an issue comes up, they don't cause a lot of drama. They don't fight about it. They understand that they're not always right and that sometimes you need to compromise. Sometimes you have to make just the best decision for the business, and you're going to put the business first. We want people who are going to fall in love with the business people are going to treat the business like their own, and they're going to take ownership. So it's a lot of, we have a whole hiring process at Outsource School that people can plug into their business, but we're really looking for the trifecta of skill, attitude, and communication. They have to have all three. When you run into a bad hire, it's usually because they're missing one, two, or all three of them. Obviously, they got to have that skill that you need, but do they have the right attitude? Do they love money before everything else, which is not what we want? Or do they love building? Do they love the entrepreneurship spirit? Do they love trying new things? Do they love work? If they're a bookkeeper, do they love doing bookkeeping more than anything else in the world? And then communication. Can you get on the same page quickly? Are you talking in circles? Are you just repeating yourself over and over again? That's really what we look for. And the unique thing we do now in our businesses that we didn't do before is we don't start a business unless we have that operator. When we had the crazy idea to start a bookkeeping business based on our due diligence experience, we had to find a bookkeeper. We're not bookkeepers. So we interviewed a lot of people, and we found Shelia, who had 30 years of experience. She ran her own bookkeeping business. Being an entrepreneur on some levels, she really liked. She liked the building component and the client component and all of that. But on some levels, she didn't like. She didn't like the risk. She didn't like handling the marketing and the sales side. So that's the perfect fit for us. She had the right attitude. She could communicate. She had the skill. She wanted to be an entrepreneur, but she didn't want everything that went with it. So we put these operators in with a fixed price plus profit share, and then build the business around them. We hire the teams. We do the marketing strategy, all of that, but we're out of fulfillment. We're out of operations, and we let them run point on that. So that's kind of our mentality, and it expands outwards. Like even if we're hiring a marketer for our marketing team or whatever, we're looking for those lifers, people who are really going to commit to this, own it, want to be a part of something. And everyone on the team really feeds into each other. And if you do end up making a bad hire, we get them out of the company as quickly as possible.
What was the three trifecta? Skill, attitude. What was the third one?
Communication.
Okay. And yeah, this is super fascinating. And so, those are kind of the three core areas that you look for in hiring people to make sure that they're a culture fit. And can you talk to me a little bit? What can you tell me about, like, how do I make sure that this person that I'm hiring has these kind of three criteria?
Yeah. So all this is in Outsource School. I recommend people check it out. But it starts off with an interview, and your interview is really split up between the three. You're testing people for skill, you're going through communication with them, and you're finding out more about them personally. What do they care about? What do they not like? Why'd they leave their past jobs? What kind of work environment are they looking for? And then this is the part most people miss. It's that onboarding call before they start. You have a really good interview. You think someone's a fit. You sit down with them and you really lay down expectations. What is it really like to work with us? We want to leave every rock unturned. We would much rather the person leaves that expectation call saying, this is not a fit. This is not for me. This is not what I'm looking for. Nathan's too crazy. He moves too fast, whatever it is, than for them to actually start on day one. So a combination of having an interview that focuses on all three, plus having an expectations call where you give them the ability to ask questions and back out before they actually start.
And how do you give them an opportunity? Is it the asking of the questions that provides them an opportunity to back out, or how would you bring some clarity to that piece?
Yeah, we're sharing everything. We're an open book. We're telling them about our past success, our failures, our plans for the next few years, like how hard they're going to have to work, who we're going to hire, the marketing we're going to bring around, like how quickly we're going to add clients. And it can be like a sticker shock to people. I remember Shelia, because she ran her own bookkeeping business. She didn't believe at first that we were going to fill up her book of clients very, very quickly. And we had to explain, we consider ourselves decently good at marketing. We've built relationships with a lot of people that trust us for things that we're going to open up the floodgates, and we need someone that's going to be able to handle it and handle the stress and build our processes and all of that. So really setting the right expectations on what someone's getting into. Every business is a little different, but the culture, the attitude, the way Connor and I work, that all stays the same company to company.
I'm totally going off topic here, but I love to have these sorts of chats. But haven't you found, though, that oftentimes people, for example, the ones that are just looking for, a paycheck, or just looking for a job, or maybe they really align with the values of the company, as an aspirational value, for example. I've had experiences in hiring, and I'm curious if you've had these experiences too, where, the person, I even give them an opportunity to back out, and I disqualify for that. This is going to be a lot of work, blah, blah, blah. This is, probably all the reasons that maybe you wouldn't want to work here because lots of risk. we move very quickly. It's really hard, blah, 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 like all this stuff. But people still say yes. Even with that opportunity to back out, oftentimes they still say yes because they want the paycheck or they just need a job, or it sounds like, something that they like wish that they could like be a fit for example. Have you found that at all, or do you have like a process for that?
Yeah, I mean, one, I'm just very confident in our hiring process. Like we've given people our hiring process at Outsource School. We've had thousands of people go through it. They take it, they plug it in their business, and they see similar results, like exactly what questions to ask, what to go through on onboarding, stuff like that. But sure, like mistakes happen, bad hires get through, and then it becomes how quickly can you identify that bad hire? This is what we talk to our team about all the time, because those initial hires are so important. They're the gatekeepers. Like, sure, we'll be on the lookout for red flags too, but we're not in the weeds of all these different companies. Our team is on such high alert for a bad apple that they're going to get rid of them so quickly if they don't have the skill, attitude, or communication. If they're all about money, any red flag. So we set that tone, and something we preach to our team, which can be easy or hard just depending on the business, is we don't want to find out if someone's bad in 90 days. We want to shorten that to 30 days, to 20 days. How quickly can we figure out that we made a mistake in hiring? And then how can we fix our hiring process so that same person never gets through again? So if you're continually doing that, like our success rate is probably 95%, things will still get through as long as you catch them early. It doesn't crush your business. If you catch it 6 months in, that's a lot harder to fix.
Love it. All right. Thanks for digging into that with me. Let's circle back to due diligence. So circling back to due diligence, talk to me about what it looked like for you, seller, to do due diligence on the buyer. What were the things that you asked? What did you hear from the buyer? What did and the goal and the intention here is for the people that are listening to this podcast to have a framework to think about when they're doing their due diligence on the buyer.
Sure. So, I mean, our initial question, which was what is their net worth? This was a cash deal where they weren't taking a loan from the bank. And that was important to us because we could agree on everything, but if the bank doesn't approve their loan, then the deal's not going to happen. So this is a situation where you have two successful entrepreneurs that have done a lot of exits that can actually put up the funds to buy the business. So that was important. We wanted to know like what their net worth actually was. We wanted to know what other companies they've acquired, which ones were successful, which ones weren't, why the ones that they acquired weren't successful, because even we didn't want them to run the business into the ground either. And when you do these deals, as you know, there's an earnout component. We got half up front, the half, we got a percentage of revenue over the next few years. So and the other advice we got was to be okay with the upfront amount, because there have been entrepreneurs who sell their company. The buyer drives the business to the ground. They never see the earnout. Luckily, that didn't happen for us, but we went in for the expectations that it could happen. But we wanted to make sure that these people actually know what they're doing. Who are they hiring to go into operations? What's their plan for free up? All of that. We wanted references of past companies that they acquired, and we were able to talk to those owners, and they all said they had great experiences with Mark and David and nothing but good things to say. We wanted references of employees in their company, and they had won Employer of the Year in Tampa for like the past 3 years or something like that. So they had a track record of treating people well. We want to know what they were going to change with FreeUp, because when someone buys a company, they're going to change certain things. You might agree or disagree on certain things, but you at least want to know like what are their plans for changes. And we went through everything from like the fees on the platform, the affiliate program, partnership program, like what are you planning on changing? And they were upfront and honest. They were like, we might change in the future, but we have no plans on changing right away. This is something we want to revisit because we think it'll improve margins, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, that's kind of how it looked like. I'm trying to think of what other questions we asked them. This was 4 years ago, but it was mostly around like past deals that they did and future plans for FreeUp, plus like them personally to get to know them out of.
Got it. Do you remember how you verified their net worth? Like, what did you ask for? Like bank statements, tax returns?
I actually don't remember that. We might not have even verified it, to be honest. We might have just given their word based on their.
It can just be a questionnaire, like often, like an accredited investor questionnaire. Yeah. They just like write their net worth. But I was wondering if you took like an extra step, because it's like, yeah, anyone could say like, yeah, my net worth is this, but you also.
Yeah. Another thing we did, like FreeUp had.
No, go ahead.
FreeUp had great reviews online. So we went to their different companies and just looked at client feedback, and all of that really matched FreeUp. So stuff like that was important to us too.
Okay. And then in terms of Did anything come up during due diligence, or was that like very straightforward? Because sometimes, certain things will be discovered during due diligence in terms of, so in SaaS deals, it can be, problems with software, or, maybe disgruntled employees or past litigation, or, these sorts of kind of issues that come up in DD. Was there anything that came up in DD for you that like became a subject of conversation, or things that were like learning moments for you? Any kind of teaching moments that you can offer the audience here in terms of conversations that came up around kind of, in legal, we call them red flag reports.
Yeah, I hate to be all butterflies and rainbows. And even like when you sign on the dotted line, you're still kind of crossing your fingers and hoping that everything like that you went through or the people that you sold it to are actually going to hold true. But we were extremely impressed, to be honest. I mean, they were two people that were doing what we wanted to be. In 20 years, we wanted to be acquiring companies, growing businesses with a focus on treating people well, both our team and clients, and all of that. So we were extremely impressed. We thought it was a really good fit. We thought it complemented the other businesses that they owned. I know what their biggest concerns were. Their biggest concerns was I was the face of the company, so removing me and how people would react to that and what their marketing plan was, whether our team would revolt since we weren't there, since we treated people well and leave. And we tried to set up some processes to avoid that. And then those are probably their two biggest concerns that I'm thinking of. But yeah, I mean, from our side, like everything checked out. We're selling it to people who could put the money up front, who had gone through lots of acquisitions. They bought one company for $100,000 and scaled it to $25 million a year. So it was doing $100,000 a year. So they had a track record. The references they gave us, both on the employee side and the companies they bought, had nothing but good things to say. They had never been in a lawsuit. They had paid people every penny. So from our side, like that was the perfect people to buy our company in our mind, and crossing our fingers after we signed the dotted line. But they ended up paying us every penny. Our team's still there. FreeUp's coming up on 10 years, which is pretty impressive. I know we were only there for the first 4, but I mean, most businesses fail before year 5. So the fact that FreeUp's still going strong says something.
And so with those two kind of red flags that had come up, you as the face of the company and, transition management plan, for the team, how was that addressed?
So the employee or the virtual assistant, I mean, I told you we took $500,000 from the deal and gave it to our team, and we just took part of that and spread that out over time where they would have to stay with for a certain amount of time. So, I mean, if all hell broke loose and they did leave, at least they weren't all leaving on day one, but it kind of incentivized them to stay, and luckily they all stayed as well. Connor and I also did our part, like easing their concerns. Whenever you sell a company, everyone's first instinct is, am I going to lose my job? And you have to tell them that 10 different times or they're not going to lose their job. So Connor and I played a role there. One of the things that was unique about our deal, I don't know if it's unique, you can tell me this, is we said they couldn't meet anyone on our team. Like they were our clients, so they'd interact with our customer service team and sales team and stuff like that. But we didn't want our team to know about the deal unless it was actually going through, because we didn't want to freak them out if the deal didn't go through. So they had to trust us that we really liked our team. But they kind of looked at it as like, hey, FreeUp's doing well. Nathan and Connor want to give them $500,000. That they might like the team on some capacity. So they went off of that. As for replacing us, I think they own an SEO company. They own a marketing company. I think they kind of get over those fears where they said, hey, we can come in with our own marketing plans. They have a great foundation of SEO. They're an SEO company, and all these different like partnerships and affiliates and stuff that we put into place wasn't just going to disappear, even though they were going to have to come in with something else. And they kind of understand too that any company they've ever bought, they told us this, there's always going to be a client that's going to be like, it was better when Nathan was here. Like there's no way to avoid that. You have to know that getting in, but they were confident in the marketing that they'd be able to put forth when I was out.
Yeah. So I hear that one of the ways that you addressed the transition plan was you implemented a cash bonus incentive, essentially. So as people, stayed, they got to, access this cash bonus for, being a part of the acquisition, transition process. And, it sounds like maybe certain milestones were implemented in terms of time periods for how long they stayed, which was the incentive for them to stay. To address your question of, is it unique for sellers to not give access to buyers to their employees until the transaction's like completely consummated? it is not unique. Most sellers don't want their employees to know that they're going to be selling the business until the business has actually sold, because it like creates significant ripples with employees in terms of making them, like it just brings up a lot of questions about the business that unless the business is actually sold, you don't want your employees asking those questions. So it totally makes sense that sellers don't want their employees to know that, they're contemplating selling the business until the business has actually sold, because then you can meet it where it is and employees have to face the reality that the business has been sold. And yes, they're not going to lose their jobs. And yes, all of them always think that they're going to lose their jobs for various different reasons because, it's a new owner. You hear about massive layoffs when companies sell. So on, there's kind of like a lot of variables and unknowns and so on and so forth. So talk to me a little bit about what that like what's the advice that you can give to sellers about managing, employees? Like, what did it look like? So did you wait until closing and the money was wired and then you had a company all hands and kind of announced it? What did that look like in terms of how you actually managed the transition process? What did that look like?
Yeah, so I mentioned we went to Tampa, we signed the documents, we got wired the money, and then we had a Zoom call with our 4 team leaders, Chicky Ann, Marius, Jane, and Layden, and we told them first, and they were shocked, and we also told them how much they'd be making out of the $500,000, so that, it was a shock to them. They appreciated the money, blah, blah, blah. Let them sit on it. And then the next Monday, I think we did that on Friday. So on Monday, we had a team meeting with everyone and we told them and same thing. And then we continued to chat with them and we had them meet the new buyers. We had them join a different Zoom call and let them ask questions. And really, we stayed connected with them. I'm still friends with a lot of them on Facebook. I check in with them. I talk to them. We're sharing pictures of their kids. We're all about relationships and we never know. Like we might work together again in the future. Like we owe them a lot. We couldn't have built the company and sold it without them. So we tried to treat them with respect and dignity and appreciation and explain to them why. And I think the part that they understood was our Amazon business before that, where things were going well and the market changed and there were things out of our control and we ended up laying people off. And we would have felt terrible if we turned down this deal and then that happened with FreeUp and then everyone lost their job anyway. There was no $500,000. So in this situation, we tried to set it up so it was a win for hopefully the buyers, a win for us, and a win for our teams where they got the money and got to keep their jobs. And I think although they were sad and they were going to miss us and did miss us and all of that, I think they at least understood where they were coming from. And it wasn't this big plan to screw them over in any way. That wasn't where we were coming from. So I think they got it. And it was cool to see pictures of their cars and their houses and stuff they were able to buy with that money post sale, even though they missed work.
Yeah. And so do you have any tips for people based off your learnings of going through the process of kind of addressing? So one of the things that I hear, I'm actually going to extract some of the tips that I heard for you. So one of the tips that I heard is make it a win for everyone. So one of the ways that you made it a win for everyone is you made it a win for the buyer. They're getting, an amazing company where the employees are still intact. The value of the business is there. You've handed a business that is entirely sellable and ready with a strong foundation to grow from, the revenue milestone that they purchased it at to whatever, the next level of the business is. So that's the first thing. Make it a win for everyone. The way that you did you made it a win for the buyer is you gave them a fantastic company with all of the value intact. The way that you made it a win for yourself is you made sure that the purchase price that you agreed to on the front end, even pre-earnout, was something that even if you didn't get the earnout, you would be more than happy with, the purchase price that you got up front. That's how you made it a win for yourself. The way that you made it a win for your team was you ensured that as part of the deal terms that they got this cash bonus incentive so that they were taken care of, so that they had incentive to continue to provide value to the business, which was all a win for the seller. So that was both a win for the employees and a win for the seller. Did I get it right?
Yeah, you nailed it. 2 other random tips, I don't know where they fall in, but just good advice that we got is don't make the earnout dependent on like the company achieving some big growth or something crazy. Like we just made the earnout a percentage of revenue going forward. So if the company sticks around for a year, we're still getting paid the earnout for that year. I've seen a lot of people, I don't know if you do a lot of e-commerce space, but that all these e-commerce aggregators bought up these Amazon sellers, and the earnout was all dependent on the company growing, which it never did. The aggregators ran the companies into the ground. So the sellers never actually saw that money. So we thought our earnout was very fair. The faster they grew, the faster we get the earnout because we're getting a percentage of revenue. The more revenue they make, the faster we get our earnout, and then it stops after a certain amount of time. So I think that's a very fair way to do it. So make sure that the earnout terms are actually realistic, because once you sell your company, you have no control. They're going to do whatever they do with the company. And then I think I just lost my train of thought on the other one.
While you think about it, I'm actually going to reflect back to you what you just said, which actually I think, a lot of the earnouts that we've seen are often on milestones. So if the milestones aren't hit, you actually don't even earn the earnout. I actually really love the percentage basis though, which is what I hear you saying, like make it based on the increase in revenue based on a certain percentage of that revenue, which is like,
and not profit. So that could be manipulated.
So yeah, definitely top line, always top line. But yeah, love that. That's actually like that's a hot tip right there. Yeah. For those that are contemplating earnouts, don't make them milestone based, make it percentage of revenue. Fantastic. What were you going to say?
I got the other one. So we were not going to stick around and be an employee of the company for years. This was good advice whenever I talk to someone who's selling a company, I'm like, don't do it. Don't sign on for 2 years. You're going to hate it after 1 year. And that almost always happens. So in our agreement, we were out I think the agreement said 90 days. We were probably really out in 30 days. We were happy to answer questions. Like we wanted the business to succeed. So if they wanted advice or something or tips, we were happy to do it. But they were pros in acquisitions. They've done this before. They know that when someone sells, they want to get out. So they had a transition team ready to go. We were in their office. So we did all these presentations going through the different teams, customer service, sales, whatever. But we were out of operations very, very quickly. And I mean, once you sell your company, to be an employee of someone else running your baby, I think is really hard. I think most entrepreneurs will not like that. So that we were only going to sell the business if we were 100%.
Got it. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So before, we're kind of nearing the end of the episode, but there are a few more points that I want to touch on before we come to a close. So I feel like it would be a missed opportunity if we didn't dig our hands into those sticking points that the lawyers couldn't move past. You addressed one of them, which was ownership of the software, which is typically quite an easy fix. You just have to get a proprietary inventions and assignment agreement from anyone who's ever, worked on the software. But it sounds like there was a sticking point here that you had to go to the buyer for. Super curious about that, if you're willing to talk about it, and any of the other sticking points and what it looked like, what the sticking point was.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. For that particular point, I think we just didn't understand what the person was saying, to be honest. I think both of us were on the same page that the software had to be ours and we had to have the rights for it. Whatever way the lawyer wrote it did not make sense to us, at least. So there was that. I'm trying to think of other sticking points. It was so long ago. So
if you can't remember, that's okay too, man.
Yeah, there wasn't anything too crazy. We went back and forth on different things, even small things like our laptops, which are company property. We're we just want to keep our laptops. Can we just add that into the agreement? They didn't care about that. They didn't give a crap about our laptops. Stuff like the write-offs, what was considered a write-off. So conferences that we went to, which they didn't have to go to run the business, stuff like that we could take off. And we were spending a good amount of money sponsoring conferences. What else? I don't know. I mean, there were plenty of things that we went back and forth on for months and months. I just can't remember what those are.
Yeah. No, it's cool. But yeah, it's interesting though that, I mean, all those things that you mentioned are pretty typical, but it sounds like, and just to clarify, off the top of your head, you can't remember what those things that you specifically had to go to the buyer about. Is that something that you also can't remember?
Yeah, I mean, there's other stuff the original agreement had an escrow company. We were going to pay the escrow company ridiculous amount of money for it, and both sides were okay, can we just trust each other? Do we have enough trust where you'll wire us the money after we sign the agreement? Can we skip the 5% or whatever it was? And both sides agreed to that. So there are certain things that we tried to just change the agreement that hopefully both sides would agree to, our bill. Or another example is our weekly billing. So we charge clients on Thursday, we pay freelancers on the following Thursday. So when's the exact cutoff for that we stop receiving payments, while also making sure that we're not going to actually have to pay the freelancers off of money that we didn't get. And then there's also fixed price projects that don't end at a certain time that have milestones. So how do we divide up that money in a fair way that doesn't screw them over or screw us over? So a lot of like nitty gritties of the actual business there. Software marketing. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else was like the sticking points there. I think we changed up not the amount of money of the deal, but like the certain way that we structured out payments. Like I remember we sold it in November. So we got tax benefits by breaking up the payments to go in one year and the other year. On the flip side, they want to do the same thing. So there was a certain element where they brought in their accountant, we brought in our accountant, and tried to figure out the best way that was good for everyone there. The $500,000 that went to the team, that's another thing. Does it count as an expense? Like how exactly is that going down? So things like that were different points that just took weeks to
Got it.
out.
Yeah, I was actually super curious about the thing that the lawyers, like in terms of your lawyer and their lawyer couldn't get past, that you had to like remove that block because they couldn't figure it out.
I can remember another like indemnification up to a certain point. Like we're dealing with freelancers, right? Freelancers, someone could hire a web developer that crashes someone's site and it destroys their business. And it's like, we don't want to be liable after a certain point. So I think we haggled over like, there's a 2-year period, we'll indemnify you. And then after that, like we're off the hook. And we really pushed for that. And their lawyers like, no, like anything pre-sale, like we still want you to be liable about. And I think we compromised on something. So stuff like that came up. Bits and pieces are coming back to me now, but yeah.
Yeah, after this episode, like a week from now, you're going to be like, oh yeah, there's that other thing. Or probably not, I don't know. It'll be kind of...
It's good questions. Like I've talked about this a million times on podcasts, and I don't think I've ever gone gritty, so it's kind of sparking...
Yeah, I'm trying to go really nitty-gritty.
You're a lawyer, though.
Exactly. So. I'm trying to go really nitty-gritty so people can really get an understanding of exactly what the process looks like. But to address that point, you also do liability caps as well, so certain percentage, for example, over a certain time.
Yeah, that was another one. Exactly. Like we're only responsible up to a certain point, and that, like their lawyer obviously trying to protect them.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
And so you just like called the buyer up and you were like, hey, you know, your lawyer is like saying this, but, you know, we would really like to, you know, just make sure we want to cover you, but, you know, only up until this certain point, but your lawyer's not budging. Like, do you remember what that conversation kind of sounded like?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about Mark and David, they're very reasonable people. They're business people. They're smart. They understand that. But my approach on that phone call is like, what can we do to just meet in the middle? Like where you don't get everything you want, I don't get anything I want, and we just find a common ground. And I would have to go back and look at the agreement, and I'm not even sure what I'm allowed to disclose and not disclose at this point around each topic. But like that was pretty much it. Like, how do we like come up with a compromise that isn't exactly what your lawyer wants? And we just tell the lawyers that we agreed to this and there's no more negotiating. And that's
Beautiful.
Really what we did.
Love it. Perfect. Yeah. So the tip there is that's how you have the conversation, you know, with the other party is, hey, lawyers can't agree to this, but where can we meet to make this make sense? And then you tell your lawyers exactly what you want. And the lawyer will be like, well, I advise, you know, based on risk that you don't do this. And you'll be like, okay, thank you. And yes, do this. Like, exactly. So, okay, to close the episode out, the last thing that I really want to get into the nitty gritty on it, and what is the earnout. Specifically, like you got, you know, a percentage of revenue, but the part that I'm curious about is what did it look like for you to help the business grow so that you can get that percentage of revenue? What I'm trying to get people to see is what is life post acquisition, you know, because I heard that you were only in the business for 90 days, but I would imagine that the period of the earnout was greater than 90 days.
Yeah, it was like 5
yeah. So what did that look like so that you can, you know, what did the process of continuing to support the business for that 5-year period look like?
Yeah, it really wasn't much. I mean, we would get income statements from them every quarter and get paid on a quarterly basis. They would reach out to us for decisions like here and there. I think the crazy part of it is COVID hit a few months later and every business owner in the world is thinking, is this business going to go down? So in our mind, we're like, crap, like we don't want this business to go under. So we reach out to them. We're like, is there anything we can do to support you? And there were decisions that they were trying to make. Like, do they increase fees on the platform, stuff like that? And we were like, don't do that. Everyone's going to hate you. Like everyone's struggling with COVID at the beginning of it. Like don't make it harder for them. Even if you're taking a short-term hit, like the goal is to everyone to win and be happy at the end of the day. So there were certain things that we didn't agree with and they did anyway. And we just gave them our advice and they did it. And some of those things ended up being right, and some of those things ended up being wrong. And I think we all have the same approach to business where you're making educated guesses. Like every business is like that. So we might think they're making the wrong decision and it ends up being the right one, or vice versa. But everyone's doing it with the business first, with the right intention. So there was never a time where it got contentious or we were like yelling at each other or anything like that. We just told them like, hey, like we think you're making the wrong decision over the affiliate program or the fees or marketing or whatever it was. So they would run stuff by us. They were very honest at the beginning of COVID, being like, this is COVID. We don't really know what's going to happen. Like all of our businesses could go under for all we know. And luckily that didn't happen. But it really wasn't much more than a phone call every month or something like that, where we would just answer their questions. They had certain clients that had a relationship with me. So if there was like a billing issue or a payment issue, Matt from operations might reach out to me and say, hey, can you WhatsApp this person or help me out here or give me some advice on this client? I'm trying to chase him down, something like that. But it really didn't take up a lot of my time.
Awesome.
And I think that's unique. I think these buyers have just gone through everything.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, wow. Yeah, like in terms of the earnout, especially like for milestone earnouts, like, you know, people have to be pretty involved in it. But it sounds like, yeah, I think the key lesson here is, wow, you found like, you sold at the right time. You found the perfect buyer for you. You know, you had set the business up from the very beginning the right way. You kind of, you know, ticked all of the boxes that business owners, you know, need to tick in terms of, you know, if it was a dance, you were, you know, in the pocket.
It really worked out. I wouldn't change anything. We sold it to really good people. We have a great relationship with them now. They paid us every penny. The earnout's over. We got it all. 95% plus of our team is still there. The business is still running. The business is still profitable. So it worked out. I mean, at the time, again, you're crossing your fingers. You don't know that it's going to work out, even though you've done your due diligence, but we're super happy with it. And I mean, it changed all of our lives. So.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show and you know, kind of showing us behind what's behind the curtain. You really got into the nitty gritty with me, and I very much appreciate that, Nathan. In closing, is there anything you want to share or say or advice that you have for people out there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm all about just keeping business simple, and it's kind of why I run a lot of boring businesses right now, whether it's hiring, bookkeeping, SEO. If you want, go to nathanhirsch.com or check out the Nathan Hirsch YouTube channel. If you're interested in any of those services, you can go to any of my websites, Outsource School, Accounts Balance, Trio SEO. Would love to work with you. And I try to just share everything that I'm doing. Not that I'm right all the time, but good, bad, ugly. It all goes on social media, and we always kind of share what we're building and how we're building it. So I would love for you to give me
awesome. Yeah. So you'll be able to find Nathan's contact information in terms of his Facebook and social media and all that stuff in the description below. And thanks again, Nathan, for joining us this week on this episode of SaaS Buyers Club. If you're out there, you're listening, and you've made it this far, make sure that you follow us, you subscribe, like, comment, leave us a 5-star review, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.